Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is Melissa Cole. I'm a beer and food writer, and this evening we will be making kebabs, because Lord knows we're all missing kebabs, right? So this is a really, really great barbecue recipe. So with the weather getting better, if you're lucky enough to have some outside space, then barbecue this is. But it's also just a really great fun recipe. It's really easy to do. It's something you can get kids involved in if they like smooshing things up. It's just really very simple, easy midweek supper to do, or something fun to stick on the barbecue at the weekend. So this is actually a lamb and haggis kebab. I know this sounds like the end of a night idea, but it really wasn't. It was actually made for some friends of mine, one of whom is Welsh, one of whom went to university in Scotland, and I was cooking them dinner when one of them was convalescing from an operation, and it was Burns night, so I thought this would all come together quite nicely. The liquid that we are using is this. It's the Big Drop Galactic Milk Stout, and the one to pair it with is, it's a lager. Why not? It's fun. So, the reason why we're doing this is because it's one of the recipes, or it's actually a changed version of one of the recipes from my book, The Beer Kitchen, and it normally includes some lava bread as well, which is a Welsh delicacy, which is boiled down seaweed. Now that's quite difficult to get hold of, so I've left it out and we'll just be using a little bit more of the milk stout. So hopefully either you've got your ingredients or you've got a beer to hand, and should we get cooking? I think that's a good idea. See you in a sec. So, as with last week, you don't have to look at my face anymore, you lucky, lucky things. So what I've got here is I've got my board ready, just a little one, you don't need a big one. Got a bit of damp towel under there just to make sure it doesn't shift around too much when we're chopping. I'm going to start with the raw ingredients that we're going to also serve raw, so that you just have to use one board. So although the recipe calls for iceberg, the only iceberg lettuces in my local shops were about the size of Jupiter. So I've got a slightly different lettuce here, but as long as it's a crunchy one, it's really not a problem. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shred it. There we go, nice and easy. Shred up your lettuce, so you've got a nice bit of crunch in there. Okay, so just going to pop that in a bowl and leave that to one side for when we're plating up. You can put it back in the fridge if you want to, but you don't have to. I think there's certain things in life where you should use classic things like a crunchy lettuce, like an iceberg, because they just fit, don't they? Obviously, if you want to put anything like onions or any other accoutrement with this is entirely up to you. You'll see I've got some hot sauce all ready to go there. I've also roasted some garlic, which I've actually got here. And I'm going to blitz that up with some mint and yoghurt to put in this squirty bottle, because who doesn't love a squirty bottle? Makes you feel like you're at the kebab house. And then I'm going to add that to the final dish. So, next bit is to take your haggis. Now, fortunately, I had exactly the right amount of haggis from making this previously. So, I'm just going to get this out of its packaging. Or maybe not, there we go. Sorry, that was fighting back a little bit. My knives desperately need sharpening properly, professionally. It is something, I think it's more likely that you'll do yourself damage with a blunt knife than you will with a seriously sharp one if you pay attention. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut the haggis into not very small cubes, because it will break up a bit as you mix it into the lamb mince, and you don't want it to totally break up. You want those little pockets of haggis. Now, as I said, if you don't like haggis, just make it all with lamb mince, no problems at all. Can't get hold of the lava bread, but quite like the idea of the seaweed. A lot of supermarkets now are selling things like dulse in packets and stuff like that. So have a look around, see what you can get. So next what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to use my elbow to move that out of the way, is I'm going to pop that in there, and I'm going to pop that in there, and then I can get my board and knife out of the way, and I'm going to go about making my pickled swede. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, just bear with me. I'm also going to obviously wash my hands because I've been handling the haggis. So, and as with last week, I've got a towel for drying hands and wiping down and things like that at the front, and I've got a dry one here at the back for handling hot trays. Okay, So, next step, need another board. Here we go. Of course, because I have to rearrange my kitchen, I keep on forgetting where I've put things. Right, new board. Let's go with our Swede. New knife. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the end off the Swede there and I'm going to chop off about that much. So this is just for the pickled Swede. So the exact measurements are in your recipe, but I know roughly how much I need. So rather than sort of going through the faff of peeling it, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the rough outside off with my knife, because why would you create another piece of washing up for yourself? And obviously the pickled Swede is also harking back to the haggis bit where you get haggis tatties and neeps on Burns night. So that was where this idea came from. Also, I've seen that a lot of people are getting Swedes and turnips in their veg boxes, and I thought this might be an interesting way for them to use it up. So as with last week, my little bin there, which is incredibly handy for putting away the rubbish from your board and keeping your space clean. Now, you might be wondering why I'm putting a glove on. It's because I'm about to use a mandolin. And now the guard for this mandolin isn't that great, to be honest with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this glove. These gloves are great. They're cut-proof gloves. So I've got it set at its widest setting, and I'm just going to slice off this. You can do this with a knife, by all means. I know a lot of people are absolutely terrified of mandolins, and so you should be, because if you ever cut yourself on one, you'll know exactly how horrible that is. See, that would have been my thumb had I not been using this glove. Cool, the Swede is properly fighting back. Right, there we go, I've had enough of you. And we've got that sorted there. So, I've also got a bowl of hot water here, and I've got some sugar, so we need the sugar, the salt that you've got in your recipe. So there we go. I always do this by eye because I do it so much. And at this stage you can also use a sour beer if you want. So you could use the Big Drop Sour as well as some of the white wine vinegar that's been listed. So we are doing this to make a quick pickle. Quick pickles are great. They really add such a nice element of acidity. It will pop through the fat of the lamb and the haggis, and it just really brightens up a dish. So I'm going to use my knife to give that a stir until it dissolves. I've used caster sugar there. I'm only doing that because it's quicker for it to dissolve and it makes it easier. So then I'm just going to pop those in there so they swirl around, and I'm going to put them in the fridge. Okay, so that's good. That's quick pickling away there. I'm now going to take my rings off because otherwise they get so mucky when you do this bit. And I'm going to add my spices. So we've got cumin, a tablespoon of cumin, tablespoon of coriander, 2 tablespoons of ras el hanout, and we're also going to need between 2 and 4. It's entirely up to you and how hot your harissa is. This one's actually really nice and gentle and smoky, so I'm popping in about 2.5 tablespoons there. So, but as I said, it's up to you what you do. We're also going to need some salt. So, ras el hanout spice mixes are individual. So it's the head of the store, and it's an individual spice mix. So when you get these in markets in North Africa, Morocco and Persian areas, you actually, these are all different spice mixes and they're all individual to each shop. So I'm just starting to mix that up a little tiny bit. Make sure that the spices are fairly well distributed. And then I'm going to take the other half of the bottle of Big Drop that I used at the weekend. Oh, that's fighting back. I can pop that lid on as well. that I used at the weekend for my Sunday roast gravy, which went very, very well. A lovely roast beef. And I'm just going to start adding little bits. Now, how much you add, obviously there is a guidance in the recipe, but you are the one with the hands in the bowl. So you will know when this is a nice, juicy texture, you will feel it, or whether it's actually too wet and it's going to fall apart. So make sure you use your common sense. That's a little dry to me. Use your common sense and make sure that when you're mixing it up, you get the feel of it. You don't want it to be too sloppy because you do want this to hold together, particularly if you're barbecuing it. You don't want to go to all this fuss and then watch it end up falling through the grate, do you? Okay. Now you might be able to hear my oven buzzing away in the background. I've popped that on because these flatbreads will need warming up. These have just been grabbed from my local supermarket. If you want to make your own, please feel free to do so. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit more beer in there. As I said, use your sense of touch, see how you feel about it, and try not to sort of really squish it. Try to just sort of work it around, otherwise you lose the little pops of haggis. Sorry. So you want to make sure that that's quite tidy. So there we go. So there's your meat. As you can see, the best way to sort of figure out whether it's going to hold together is just to do that gently. And if you can start forming it into a kebab shape, then you know you're onto a good thing. So I'm just going to let that rest for a minute. I'm also going to go and wash my hands, and then we're going to move over to the stove and start cooking. That's it, folks. That's how easy it is. I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so welcome back. You'll notice that I've sort of done a bit of a Blue Peter job here. I've already got one of these on the go because I wanted to show you quite quickly. They do take a while to cook, and it'll be boring if you just hang around. So what I've done is I've got that cooking gently, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that finish off. I'm going to move that off the heat so it's got a bit of a cooler zone, and I'm going to show you how to form the kebabs. Now this is actually really quite easy. As you can see, we've got the mix here. What you want to do is you want to get some oil for your hands. Don't worry if some of it falls into the meat. And you want to oil your hands up. And then you want to take about 1/8 of the mixture, and you want to start forming it into your kebab. Now again, you don't want to be doing this too hard. You don't want a really dense, really heavy. You want to be able to have it nice and light. Don't want it to be too pushed together. It'll also stop it cooking quite as quickly as well. And you want to then just allow it to form up. So when you're happy that that's going to stay together, but it's not too heavy and dense, you want to go into a dry frying pan. Now that's really important. You want to oil the meat and not the pan. If you're making this on a barbecue, you obviously want to oil the grates. But you do want to make sure that if you're cooking it inside, it goes into a dry pan. If this was filled with oil, you would have so much smoke going on, it would be mad. So you really want to make sure that you do that. And then you just gently place that into the frying pan there. Okay, and then you go back and you do it all over again. Now, you'll probably have noticed that if you were with us last week, that I'm not drinking a beer while I'm cooking this week. And that's because of this kind of stuff. When you're you know you're going to be handling a lot of raw meats throughout the process, it becomes really easy to forget that you're doing so and to pick up the can and drink from it, and that is not sanitary at all. So don't do that. So just going to, this guy wants to form a little pocket, so make sure we work our way around that. There we go, I'll just smooth him out, pop him in with the others, and rinse and repeat. So I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm just going to go and wash my hands. Which I'm sure we're all very, very bored of doing, but when you've been handling raw meat, it's very important. So, just going to take this little fella out here. I'm going to pop him on the spoon rack there. just to rest and chill for a little bit whilst I take my flatbreads that you saw earlier. Open those up. I'm going to pop one in the oven, which I mentioned earlier that I had on warm, and I'm going to let that warm up. Now, I haven't yet mentioned why it is that I've chosen milk stout for this. Well, I wanted to get some sweetness into this as well. So in the original recipe, it actually calls for a honey ale or a braggot, which again is a Welsh style of beer. So when I was talking about the fact that I wanted to make this quite a cross-Celtic theme for my friends, that was one of the things that I did. So because obviously honey ales aren't that easy to get hold of, the sweetness in the milk stout, which contains lactose, which isn't fermentable by the yeast in the beer, that gives that nice sweetness, and also that rich roastiness from the stout will really, really help put some extra oomph into the meat. So I'm just going to leave those going for a second, and I'm going to grab my flatbread, which should almost be done. Just warming up, not quite, sorry, my apologies. Let's take the opportunity to turn these guys over. If you give them a little wiggle, that's when you know that they've built up a nice crust. So don't worry if it actually looks burnt, I promise you. I know this sounds like one of those things where you're saying, where somebody's messed something up and they're saying, no, I promise you it's like that. It's actually quite a nice flavour that gets on the outside. It looks burnt, it's not. It's a nice, really sort of caramelised, maillard-y crust on it that you can see on here. Also helps hold the kebab together as well when you're rolling it. So, yeah. So you can tell when they're not quite ready. As you can see, I can't move them, I can't wiggle them. So I'm going to grab my flatbread with my dry towel from the back of the apron. I needed a John Turode there and set light to my towel. So there's my nice warmed and now more to the point flexible flatbread. We'll pop that over there on the board. Put the tray back in and we'll start our assembly. See, I've been very bad this week. I haven't been working properly clean, so I've had to move things out of the way. So I'll bring the board over here and I will just pop the pan out of the way for a moment so you can see what's going on. There'll be enough heat in there for those to carry on cooking, so you'll get treated with the sizzle. I'm obviously not going to put it over the top of the burner, otherwise we will have some problems. Sorry, you had some flare on the video there. So, first things first, as I said, I made some roast garlic and mint yoghurt sauce. Put it in a squeezy bottle to give us that full effect. Got to have chilli sauce. No point in having a kebab if you haven't got chilli sauce, is there? Oh, sorry, got to open the nozzle there. There's some chilli sauce. Pop on some greens to pretend that this isn't as horribly unhealthy as we all know it is. Get your kebab. Pop that in the middle there. And we have one last thing, of course, which is sitting in the fridge, still pickling away, and that's our swedes. So, in order to make this easier to eat, I'm just going to grab a knife and chop them up into matchsticks. In fact, that's almost a matchstick in and of itself, so let's just chop that in half. Pop that on there. I'm just going to put them in a bit of a pile and just roughly chop them into little matchsticks, which then sprinkle over our kebab. Obviously you can put 2 kebabs in one of these flatbreads if you want, no problems, your dinner. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is your lamb haggis and big drop milk stout. Yeah. Enjoy with a big drop Uptown craft lager. Easy peasy, huh? Well then folks, cheers, that's it for another week. Thank you very much for joining me again, I really do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed the cooking with beer. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about Big Drops beers. Don't forget that you can order them on bigdropbrew.com, and I'm very grateful for you tuning in. If you want to ask me any questions, if you want to substitute any of the ingredients or anything like that, please leave messages on social media channels with Big Drop, or come and see me over on mine, and I'll do everything I can to help you with any questions you have. Have a lovely week, rest of the week. Enjoy the weekend. It looks like the weather's going to improve. Keep social distancing. Stay in a constant cat-like state of readiness, I think we're supposed to be doing. But seriously, folks, please do stay safe out there and be good to each other. Cheers.